What's going on, guys? It's time to get dirty in the garage again. In this video, we are focusing on some bomb-proof motor mounts, and we're putting a fan shroud on the radiator, relocating our power steering cooler, and if we get to it, we will be throwing on some hood louvers for the Samurai. Oh. So here is the passenger engine side of the motor mount, and then here is the frame side. You know, this one actually looks like it's in pretty good shape, believe it or not. This one, I mean, the rubber's a little bit hard on it, but I mean, it feels pretty solid. So I don't know, maybe that is it. Maybe there's still enough torque to move this thing. We'll figure it out. So on the frame side, we're switching to this style. This part will bolt onto the motor like that. You can see we've got a couple different options to choose from. We'll see what this one looks like. Motor mounts are in. You can see it right down there. It says Trail Tough on it. And I found that getting that bolt in through the eye of the motor mount is impossible if you have your oil filter on there. So I had to take that off. We need to do an oil change anyways. As you're disassembling all of this stuff to get the motor mounts in there, I didn't take my alternator off, but I did just loosen it up and moved it out of the way. And I ended up breaking a couple wires off right here for this coolant temp sensor. Now, I can't find this part anywhere. The wires are busted, but doing some research, it appears that that's only needed if you're running the stock Hitachi carburetor. We're running the propane mixer, so I don't think we'll need it. I'm gonna attempt to drive it without it, but I did have to drain the oil, and when I took this out, a bunch of coolant came out, so I've got to redo that anyways, because the next thing to do is put a shroud on the radiator. We've been having issues with overheating for a long time now. It's been getting really hot. As you can see, there's not really an easy way to put the shroud on there. I think we're gonna have to take the radiator out, put the shroud on, and then slide the radiator back in, which totally sucks. But it's gotta be done. Let's do it. Radiator's out, and you can see it's got a little damaged over the years, just hanging out in there. Those big holes in it are from putting some zip ties through there to hold on our power steering cooler. So you can see how big this power steering cooler is. It was hogging up probably 80% of the radiator. I'm hoping removing that and putting it in another spot is gonna help allow more air to get into the radiator, because I just really didn't think about it because I haven't had a lot of temperature issues. But the goal for that, to see if I can mount it right here, bolt it to this little platform that's there. I don't know if there's going to be enough room. It's pretty big. I might have to order an aftermarket one, but we're moving forward with the radiator for sure. Radiator's back in. The shroud actually lined up pretty good this time. I remember getting rid of it the first time because it didn't seem like it was lining up with the radiator right, and it was contacting the fan. But now it can spin freely. It's not even close. The only problem I have is these little bolts are too short, so I gotta go get some longer ones. But look at all that open room up there. That whole area right there was covered by my power steering cooler, and I really think that was a huge factor in the overheating. Also not having that shroud on. So here is where the power steering cooler is now. Is it even gonna do its job well up here? I don't know. Not really that concerned about it. But one cool thing you can do is get a fan that goes on top of this, you know, and I could either run it off a switch in the dash, or much cooler, I could have it plumbed into the coolant system. So we've got a couple more things to do. Got to get those bolts. Probably the last thing I need to do is paint all of the brackets that I had built years ago that hold this. You know, really what I should do is make a new bracket for this that holds it somewhere else, like lower, because this thing is in the way. But the way I have it plumbed in right now, there's just not a lot of room to experiment with that. So I'm just gonna leave it how it is. All right, everything's buttoned up. Got our bracket painted and our regulator put back up there. This thing is running smooth. You can see how much clearance we have on the bottom of the fan. The tightest spot is up there on the edge, and looks great. This thing's running really great right now. Our new cooler placement, haven't noticed anything with the steering. So I bought a set of hood louvers, basically some vents to cut in the center and a little bit on the side to air out the hood, because whenever it does get really hot, that seems to be the only way I can cool it down is if I pop the hood and let it sit like this for a while. But I feel like just opening up the radiator, I mean, that'd be enough right there to make a drastic difference. And then having that fan shroud on there with the new fan clutch and everything, I mean, I just don't see why it would be overheating. I think at this point, if I am overheating still, there's something else going on and I need to look at that. So I had the time off and I just thought, what the heck, I've got the parts, let's start cutting. I really didn't want to cut into this hood and I didn't want to mess with the hood louvers at all. But, you know, before anyone complains about the hood getting destroyed, just remember this hood is already thrashed. Because it's white, it looks a lot cleaner than it is, but it's crumpled up, even in the front. Plus, it's my Samurai anyways, guys, and I want it to stay cool and look cool. All right, couldn't help myself. Decided to put the hood louvers in anyways. Not as easy as it looks. There's a lot of stuff I had to cut out. You know, one of my concerns is that the hood wasn't gonna be as rigid, but I think actually now it's a little bit more stiffer because those are just like another sheet on there. I decided to just leave them the bare aluminum. I think it looks pretty good. I just washed off the hood and that's what it looks like. So my other option was to just keep them matching everything else with black, the Rust-Oleum semi-gloss black, like all the other accessories on the Samurai, but I think it looks pretty cool like this. Made the hood just a little bit more rigid. Now it's gonna allow all that heat to escape. So one additional thing I did that I didn't really include in the video is these front leaf springs. It used to be 5 leaves and I added one more. It was actually the second leaf out of a front pack, and it makes it 6 leaf, way sturdier. I thought it was going to be too stiff for driving around. Took it on a test drive, drives even better. I think it's just going to perform a lot better that way. Hopefully it doesn't limit the articulation, and I think it gave me like a 1/4 inch more of lift, so getting up there in the front. But this is supposed to be the last of the mods for the Samurai. The hood louvers, the cooling, the suspension, we're not going to mess with it anymore until we do our 1-ton swap, which is coming up really soon. Hopefully the Samurai will have its last run on the Rubicon. I keep saying last run. This is really supposed to be the last run this time.